Totally. Okay. Now, okay. Yes, but why do you love Trump will be the next question. Okay.
Did I ask that? Cenk,
okay.
talk
So
about a
now,
straw man. I mean, you're making up stuff I never
Let me
said.
answer your questions.
Come
What's
on.
the point of coming on here if I can't answer your
Cenk,
questions?
I'm giving you plenty of time to answer, brother. You're making up stuff about me. I didn't say that.
Okay,
so you want to talk about straw men? You're inventing things on the spot.
You guys.
It's and man, I wish they would just stop. Yes, Crystal, like throughout this entire what is this 19 minutes? You kind of have been framing your questions as if Cenk isn't a progressive. Now, once again, we don't know the man's heart. We don't know his true intentions. So if he's saying he's a progressive, he's a Democrat, and he's on the side of Bernie Sanders or whatever the case is, then damn, let's believe that and challenge his strategy, his planning. Let's do that. So we are still in this conversation with Mr. Cenk on trying to somehow, some way, even after 4, 5, 6 months in Trump's presidency, second term, he's still trying to find some sort of common ground. Now, a part of me, deep down inside, like really suppressed, deep down inside, okay, I kind of understand. Like, you don't want to be that person to believe like every 7 million of the people that voted for Trump are all just hateful, greedy, racists, idiots. You don't want to believe that. You want to believe that there's some people who just voted for Trump with good intentions. You know, deep down inside of me, I want to believe that too, okay? But after watching politics as long as I have, especially the past year, I kind of want to give up hope. And that's the whole name of this channel. I mean, it's literally why I hate politics, because I break it down to 3 types of Trump supporters. And once again, if you guys been watching my videos for the past year, this seems pretty consistent, okay? One is wealthy people. 9 times out of 10, rich folks or people who are making over $100,000. 9 times out of 10, they're going to vote for someone like Trump, or Republicans in general. Like, they like the tax breaks. They don't want tax increases, whatever the whole case is. Then you have racist people. There's a well-known quote out there. It says, not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists vote for Trump. Like, that's pretty understandable. Now, of course, there's racists in the Democratic Party. That's not what I'm saying. But the bulk of it, your misogynist, your real just racist, bigoted, misogynist people are going to be Republican voters. I'm sorry, that's just where the numbers lie at there. But the bulk of it, I would say, I'm just throwing a number out there, 60% of the Trump supporters, in my opinion, are misinformed or idiots or gullible, whatever you want to call them. Those are the ones I believe Cenk is trying to reach. If you can just sit down with them, drink a beer and say, hey, what are some things that concern you about the world we live in? And trying to find some sort of common ground and say, hey, you voted for Trump, but unfortunately, Trump is not going to solve your issues. I mean, damn, liberals may not even do that either. So I understand what he's trying to do. But at this point in our lives that we're living in, which, Cristobal and Kyle do a pretty great job with having this debate with Cenk. But at some point, like, I don't want to tell Cenk to give up, because if he really believes in this and he really wants to adventure off into trying to save some lost souls out there, go for it. But you got to understand, and this is based off numbers, Democrats didn't lose because Democrat voters or a large swath of Democratic voters decided to vote for Trump. I'm pretty sure that has happened. But according to the statistics, a lot of Democratic voters just didn't vote for X, Y, and Z reason. So if you want to expend your energy on trying to rebuild the Democratic Party or the Progressive Party, you might want to talk to the Democratic voters who didn't vote. Figure out why they didn't vote and try to prevent that from happening next time. But trying to reach across Trump supporters, why? Is that really worth the energy and the humiliation from your own party with just reaching one or two people? I don't know. But once again, hey, let's go ahead and watch this debate. Let's go.
This administration has been constrained. It has had nothing to do with the right, had everything to do with liberals and the left organizing against him.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So you asked about 12 questions. I would love the time to answer it, but you didn't actually answer my question.
So right now, she's talking about the war that Trump provoked. Well, Israel provoked and just dragged. Well, I don't even want to say drag because Trump knew what he was doing. So, and invited America to partake in this war. That's the conversation. That's where this is kind of leading into. And it's pretty simple, but let's go ahead and listen.
Do you see a massive MAGA revolt against the war? And I'm being genuine. It's a literal question. Or do you just not see it?
Cenk, here's what I can tell you. Okay, Charlie Kirk, your buddy. He has already.
He's not my buddy.
He has
Crystal,
already gone. He has already gone.
Thing to say.
He's already gone from. He's already gone from being critical of the Iran war to guess what? He got a call from the White House, and now what he's saying? What's he saying? Oh, I trust Trump. Trump is the man for this moment. I know he's going to make the right decision.
The exact
Steve
quote
Bannon.
is.
Go
Can I
ahead.
give the exact quote?
Yeah.
This is from Charlie Kirk. Quote: "We must trust Trump in this situation." Go ahead with Steve Bannon.
So
Steve
you're not
Bannon.
seeing
Hold
it.
on. Steve Bannon. Put up element number 4. This is the Financial Times today. Steve Bannon says, if the president, as commander-in-chief, makes a decision to do this, the MAGA movement, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Matt Gaetzes, we will fight it up till the end. But if he has more intelligence and makes that case to the American people, the MAGA movement will support President Trump. When Trump says that he gets to define what America first is, he's right about that. Mm-hmm. And so when you have Bannon, who also was critical of Elon Musk originally and got a call from the White House and said, cut it out, and he bent the knee, these people time and time again, Cenk, all they do is ultimately when Trump makes the decision, they bend the knee. We are already far enough into this administration to know there has been no constraint on his action that has come from the right. None. And we're in a war with Iran.
Okay.
We are already in a war with Iran. They didn't constrain him here. He's doing whatever the hell he wants to do.
Okay.
Now, we already know what Cenk's answer is going to be. No, he's going to disagree with her. But it's hard to disagree. Like, I can't think of within Trump's circle. Okay, now we know the Republican Party is broken down into, many fractions, but just like the Democratic Party, we have the liberals, then we have progressives. Once again, I know it might break off into more smaller segments, but let's just keep this simple for this conversation here. We have MAGA, and then you have your more old school Republicans, like your John McCain type of Republicans. MAGA, Trump, that's all Trump cares about. It's the MAGA group of the Republican Party. He doesn't care what Dick Cheney says about whatever actions he's doing right now. He doesn't care. Mitch McConnell, someone like that, he could care less of what he thinks about what Trump is doing right now. So when we have to understand, Trump is only ever bat an eye is if his immediate circle starts to question him. But now, as Crystal just said, Steve Bannon falling in line. We have Charlie Kirk, who's a very boisterous Republican out there speaking, is now falling in line. Who else does he need? He doesn't care about your grandma's friend talking bad about Trump. He could care less. So let's continue.
Okay. So you guys just spoke for like 8 minutes doing a straw man. Okay. So you make it sound, and this is what's so harmful. You guys make it sound like I'm pro-Trump, and I think that MAGA is just a bunch of angels who are secretly left-wing, and they're going to magically agree with us on every issue. And the minute that Trump does something wrong, they're going to all push back 100%. And that's what I believed. I believed in rainbows and unicorns. Of course not, Crystal. Of course not. Well, you're trying to move them. Moving the other side is super hard. And so when you see anything where they actually agree with us, you have to encourage that. So when you say all the things that you said, is Trump a bad guy? Of course, of course. So if you're listening out here, guys, the framing of all of this is totally wrong. Like, we're having a conversation. Do you think Trump's a bad? Of course I think Trump's a bad guy. He's totally authoritarian. That's why I voted against him. That's why I worked so hard against him. So even the framing makes me sound defensive when you guys started with a premise that's out in la la land. We totally oppose Trump. So now the second part of the premise that's totally wrong is, do I think that MAGA is going to revolt on every issue against Trump from day one? Why? Why would they? They love Trump. Of course not. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for, is there one or two issues where there is actual agreement? And can we take that agreement and do something interesting to restrain Trump?
Now, okay, cool point. We have been in this administration for about 6 months. I mean, it feels about 6 years, but okay, got you. You know, we got to live in reality. We have, I don't want to say we experience every scenario or every important crossroad when it comes to our democracy. We had Trump sending troops on American land without approval of that state's governor. So that's invading state rights. And, you know, the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of state rights. I don't see anyone going crazy about that. We have Trump literally kidnapping people due to speaking out against Israel and in defense of Palestinian people, not the terrorists, but innocent Palestinian people, kidnapping them. Now they're set free, but had no basis to pick them up anyway. What happened to that? What happened to censoring and freedom of speech? Oh, they're not speaking up about that. Then we have the you know, what we're dealing with today. Trump literally starting new wars and sending our troops into harm's way. That's literally what they said Trump isn't. Anti-war. He's anti-war, but now he's Mr. War. And I don't hear nothing. I don't hear nobody. So these are a lot of big scenarios that you would assume a lot of Trump supporters will be pushing back, but unfortunately they're not. So my question to Cenk would be, what exactly are you looking for? If not these three examples, which are pretty big democracy saving examples, what are you looking for this common ground?
In those issues. So when you talk about immigration.
And so when has that worked?
Okay, hold on. Well, we're in the middle of it right now. So I'll tell
we're
you
at
what
war with Iran, Cenk. Hate to break it to you. We're at war with Iran. It didn't work.
Okay. So Crystal, let me finish. So when you talk about immigration and all the things that he's terrible on, I know what MAGA is movable on or not. I talk about it on the Young Turks all the time. If you think you're going to move them on immigration, you are nuts. They're not going to move an inch on immigration. So I fight him tooth and nail on that dungeon in El Salvador that they're sending people to, the Marines in the streets. Now, there's some issues like immigration where they haven't moved an inch and they never will move an inch, right? Mm-hmm. There's some issues like the Marines in the streets where, as a smattering of them are like, this is a little uncomfortable. It feels a little unconstitutional. It doesn't feel quite right. Those libertarian wing, remember guys, this is super important. There's 77 million people that voted for Trump, right? If you treat them all the same, you will not be able to win elections. Why is winning elections important? Because that is how you take power away from Trump, away from the Republicans. So if you treat all 77 million as hardcore MAGA, you are going to push them away and they're going to vote against you. You can say, oh no, but it makes me feel better. I have emotional release and my audience likes me more because I seem like I'm tougher on Trump. I was so mean to him. Yeah, but did that persuade anybody? I called all of his voters fascists. Yes, but did that persuade anyone? You're trying to persuade the people in the middle to come to your side. So,
okay. No, not really. Kind of not really. People are different. You can persuade me by showing me the facts, by showing me the data, and being able to articulate your opinion on a matter. If you can do that, you can persuade someone like me. But what I've noticed, and I done made like a dozen videos of Trump supporters now after they done voted for him, and their businesses are closing. Their money is tightening up. They're starting to see things are getting better. And I haven't seen not one person in the interview. Now, maybe they're just too much ego to kind of admit that they were wrong or they made a bad vote. Maybe, very possible. But not one person have I seen that was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have voted for him. I'm losing my business. He said he was going to make me rich. I voted for him. He said he was going to make grocery prices, cheaper. Day one. It didn't happen. I voted for him because he said no more wars. And now we're just steamrolling into one. I haven't seen not one that's showing a little regret, like, damn, he tricked me. So if you can't have people being honest and saying, hey, I was wrong, or I made a bad decision, if they can't be that genuine in a conversation, you can't persuade them. Being persuaded takes something in you to admit that you were wrong, or that you are wrong, or you can be wrong about something. But it feels like it's a culture within the Republican Party that will never admit that they're wrong as long as they can get one over Democrats. As long as they can do that. Own the libs, right? As long as they can do that, they're winning in their eyes. But, okay, I digress. My bad.
what are the issues where we've got a fighter's chance? War. Okay. So now, do I think that on day one, they were all going to flip and then act and be successful in stopping all of the establishment, all the neocons? And by the way, were we successful? We were not successful in stopping any of them during Biden or any other Democratic administration either, right? So now there's a giant full-blown revolt from MAGA against this war. Now, if you're saying, no, I don't see Tucker Carlson, Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Posobiec, Cernovich, Candace Owens, et cetera, all of them opposed to the war, but you might not, because a lot of people watch programming that honestly just kind of gives them a misleading sense of what's happening.
Did you see Tucker, Trump saying, Tucker called me to apologize. He said he went too far. Did you see Steve Bannon saying, we're all going to fall in line ultimately? So I'm not talking about, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the however many million Americans voted for Trump, some of whom are hardcore MAGA, and you will never move them. And I guarantee you, the moment that Trump says this is the policy, they're going to say, you're right, sir, this is the policy, this is brilliant, and I am on board. Are there independents that can are there independents that can be moved? Yes. There are two separate questions here. Okay. Number one is we are in hell right now. Like, the level of damage that has been done to this country, done to the world from Trump 2.0 already is astounding. So the number one thing is triage, right? How do we stop?
That's what I'm doing.
How do we stop as much damage as we can? And the track record thus far in the Trump administration is the only time he has been constrained is through the left and liberals banding together and going through the court system and public pressure. That's it. That's all we've seen in this administration. The other question is, how do you win elections? So go ahead and address that, and we can talk about the election piece. But real quick, before you get in, as to the earnestness of this MAGA anti-war movement, put element number 3 up on the screen. Do you know? Tell me, how many Republicans have signed on to the War Powers Resolution?
1.
Is Marjorie Taylor Greene? No. Is Lauren Boebert there? No. 1. Thomas Massey, a libertarian who is, ideologically consistent, kind of similar ideologically to Dave Smith. Every other person here is a Democrat. So to the earnestness of this anti-war MAGA coalition and their commitment to blocking war with Iran, here is where the rubber meets the road. You have one Republican who is already at odds with Trump, who is willing to put his name on this War Powers Resolution. That's it.
So, Crystal, look, I know you don't mean it, but you keep conflating two things. The Republican politicians, including Trump, and the Republican voters, or the people who voted for Trump, okay? So are the Republican politicians corrupt? Of course they're corrupt. Are they gonna say, hey, Israel, I'll be your bitch, and I'll do whatever the hell you want me to do? Of course they are. They're completely owned by Israel, okay? So AIPAC, et cetera, the warmongers, by the way, let's be honest, is more than half the Democratic Party totally owned by AIPAC? Yes, right? So I know, oh my God, no, you can't be honest. You have to just say the other side is terrible and our side is angels. No, I'm not going to play that.
Who says that? Who says that? That part right there annoyed me. Who are you speaking to? Even liberals understand that liberal politicians are taking money from AIPAC, and that is a bad thing. That is a bad dynamic there, just in general. So, okay, I'm sorry, but that just really annoyed me.
Would you rather be on the side of the 37 who signed onto the War Powers Resolution,
Crystal,
or the
I am on the side of the 37. Everything you frame is a straw man. I am on the side of the 37. In fact, Ro Khanna is my top ally. Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna and I had the same exact strategy that you criticized in November when we talked.
That's not true.
You literally put me, and Kyle did the same thing. You guys put me in the same bucket as Bernie and Ro, reaching out to see if we can find agreement on the right.
What else has Bernie done? What else has Bernie done that has been profoundly impactful? The anti-oligarch, the Fight Oligarchy Tour, which was an effort to bind together the left and the liberals to protest and to resist this administration, and that has been profoundly more impactful.
You're having a conversation with a person who isn't here.
Did the Pentagon budget get cut? Just tell me that. What's the Pentagon budget? Did it get cut?
You've now asked me 28 questions.
Did Don Jr., did he do whatever with the generals? Did that work out?
All right, guys, look, I came on here because, look, you're generally fair. So you asked me 28 questions, and then let me answer them. So, and stop framing it as if I'm a different person. You keep making all these assumptions about who I am. Oh, are you on the Republican side or the Democratic side?
I'm literally citing things that you said, Cenk. Like, I played your clip of what you said.
Christ, man.
Turn to the camera.
Okay,
hey, tell me if I'm wrong.
Crystal, I'm right here. I'm right here. Can I talk for myself instead of you?
You specifically held on the Pentagon budget.
At this point, borderline lying about me in every framing of every question. Can I actually be a human being named Cenk actually answer your questions instead of you framing me as a person that doesn't exist?
Cenk,
okay?
Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay. This is where it gets unproductive here. Okay, Crystal, hey, I mean, I watch you and Kyle, every once in a while. This right here, let him speak for himself. If he's saying that he's a progressive and that he's down for the cause and he supports Bernie Sanders and people alike, then okay. But we understand. We gotta be honest here, okay? Cenk is just being too optimistic, and his strategy is wrong, in my opinion. Okay, we have people like Bernie Sanders. Yes, even Bernie Sanders was on interview saying, hey, if Trump wants to do this and this, I'll work with him. If he wants to do X, Y, and Z, well, shoot, I'm down for X, Y, and Z. But I would never look at someone like Bernie Sanders and be like, oh, he's not a progressive. He's secretly MAGA. No, he's just trying to get a win where he can get a win. And I get it. Okay, sure. But it's okay to say, hey, Cenk, you one of us. But I think your strategy, your planning is you're missing something in your formula to where you're not getting the correct answer. But this whole like trying to make him seem as if he's not a progressive or he's not at least a Democrat or whatever you want to call it, that's a little disingenuous to me. It's like, come on, like this whole little back and forth thing, that's stupid. Just straight up. So come on now.
The clip of you talking. So tell me how I'm lying.
Okay. All right. So now, of all your questions, you have this fantasy land that Trump was like, oh, the left thinks Abrego Garcia's, I've treated him wrong. I surrender, left. Come on, what planet do you live on? No, the courts are not left or right. The courts have held. I'm thrilled that the courts have held. And it was so important for the courts to hold. So if they didn't hold on that, he was going to have unlimited authoritarian power. And we are against that, no matter how many times people try to pretend that we're on the side of Trump. Listen to what I am actually saying, and you will see this every day on the Young Turks. I am against Trump. Totally. Okay. Now, okay. Yes, but why do you love Trump will be the next question. Okay.
Did I ask that? Cenk,
okay.
talk about a straw man. I mean, you're making up stuff I never
Let me
said.
answer your questions.
Come
What's
on.
the point of coming on here if I can't answer your
Cenk,
questions?
I'm giving you plenty of time to answer, brother. You're making up stuff about me. I didn't say that.
Okay,
so you want to
Jesus
talk about
Christ,
straw men?
Crystal.
You're
This is
inventing
it's
things on the
insane
spot.
talking to you guys.
It's and man, I wish they would just stop. Yes, Crystal, like throughout this entire what is this 19 minutes? You kind of have been framing your questions as if Cenk isn't a progressive. Now, once again, we don't know the man's heart. We don't know his true intentions. So if he's saying he's a progressive, he's a Democrat, and he's on the side of Bernie Sanders or whatever the case is, then damn, let's believe that and challenge his strategy, his planning. Let's do that. But once again, this whole stupid back and forth thing is just a waste of time. I don't care if Cenk is a true progressive or not. I just want to know, is he fighting on the right side of history? Damn, even if a liberal is like, damn, man, like we shouldn't be, entering into this war and Trump shouldn't be stamping or trampling over people's constitutional rights. Well, damn, we align on that. So it's like this whole, like, are you truly a progressive? This whole litmus test is stupid and it gets nowhere. Simple.
It's a mistake. So, okay, now, when you're talking about the Pentagon cuts, do you think that I thought, oh my God, Elon's such a good guy and Trump's such a good guy, even though I've spoken out against them at every single turn. And then I magically thought, oh, I bet they become liberals overnight, progressives overnight. No, you put out the Pentagon thing so that they're stuck either way. That's why Bernie and Roe joined me, because either they cut the Pentagon, we go, yes, mission accomplished. We got a tiny, tiny amount accomplished during a Trump reign, which seemed impossible. Or they don't cut the Pentagon and they add to it. And then we all come out, as I did and Bernie and Roe did, and go, see, we told you. They're hypocrites. The leaders of your party never intended to cut the Pentagon. MAGA, they were lying to you. Now,
does MAGA care, Cenk? Did that work? Did MAGA care?
Yes, they do care.
No, they don't.
No, okay, Crystal.
I've seen zero pushback on the Pentagon budget. Let me just say, because I let you go on for a little while.
Oh, I know.
There
God
were
forbid I got paid answer one or two questions.
There were two tactics that were floated by me and by you in our conversation, okay? You said, I think it's great that Elon's responding to me, Don Jr.'s responding to me, like we have more of a chance. No, you said we have more of a chance with these guys to cut the Pentagon budget than we don't. And I said, nothing good's going to come out of this. And so the important thing to do is to resist the project outright, because we don't want a bunch of the richest man on the planet running our government. And so we saw how this played out.
Yeah,
The Pentagon, hold on. The Pentagon did not get cut. And actually what happened is all of the liberal and left organizing against Tesla, against the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, against Elon directly, tanked his popularity to the point that Trump felt he was a political liability and the whole project had to be scrapped. So the tactic of let's work with them and try to cut the Pentagon budget failed. The tactic of let's resist this project outright and make the case and make Elon himself politically toxic succeeded.
So, Crystal, we do live in two different worlds.
So I kind of understand what both of them are saying, and it feels like they're like talking around each other, which is weird. Like, if they can just chill the hell out and have a real conversation, maybe it can be a little bit more like something more out of this conversation. But the reason why Trump and the Republican Party kicked Elon out was even Republican voters didn't like Elon Musk. So it's not only because of Democrats and progressives like showed who Elon really was, and what's happening to Tesla stocks and things like that. Republican voters don't even like Elon Musk either. So it's a mixture of both things happening here. But at the end of the day, Trump doesn't care about the voters, about his own voters. He just cares about his own well-being and his own agenda and others in his crew. Because we know who's really pulling the strings, and that's the real evil people behind him. But once again, Trump doesn't care about his voters. Cenk and Crystal, hey, Republican voters didn't even like Elon Musk. And we seen that at the rallies that Byron Donalds was going into. A lot of these senators, when they were having town hall meetings and their own voters were talking about Elon Musk and what he's doing, and they weren't playing. They didn't like that. So we seen how they felt about Elon Musk. So it's a little both. So come on now.
It's fascinating to see. It's amazing to see. So number one, the project of saying cut the Pentagon worked. Why did it work? Because they cut the Pentagon, they magically became progressives overnight? No. It worked because it showed and highlighted their hypocrisy, that they weren't going to cut the Pentagon. And now I get it, guys. Especially if you're in the audience, you're not seeing it. I get it. And I'm not saying that as an insult. You're not seeing it.
So
because
you won because the Pentagon budget went up, even though you thought that the Pentagon budget would get cut.
Can I finish? Okay. So the reason you're not seeing it is because you're not engaging with MAGA, and that's okay. And you don't want to engage with MAGA. I got it.
Do you know who I am? Do you know the show I host?
I don't know if you know who you are.
Who are you talking to right now? I host a show with Sagar and Jetty and Emily Jasinski every day.
Okay, so Crystal,
no one in this room talks more to MAGA than I do, okay?
Yeah, okay. So are you saying that none of the MAGA voters were thrilled that they added to the Pentagon? Is that what you're saying?
They don't give a shit because Trump did it.
Elon and Trump.
No, you guys were wrong.
Elon and Trump and Don Jr., Cenk, lied to you from the beginning when they pretended like there was even a 1% chance of it. So when people told you at the time, though, resist them outright and point out that they're frauds. Don't pretend like maybe they'll cut it. That was kind of the point.
You guys have a totally ridiculous, All right, let me not be insulting. We disagree on strategy, okay?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, yeah. This whole idea that you're making a difference because Donald Trump is listening to the left, I can't believe you guys think that. That sounds totally detached from reality.
I'll make that case in a minute.
Why is Elon Musk out? Because people burn Tesla cars? I mean, Crystal, you said that in the intro. Are you serious? No, Elon's out because his policies were always deeply unpopular. No one wanted those cuts.
Yeah, and who pressed that case?
Them, and they're in La La Land.
Cenk, and who pressed that case?
It was the left and liberals in the street.
Joe Rogan hosted him on his podcast to pump him up. Joe Rogan,
guys,
think about, but Cenk, think about this. Think about this.
Unbelievable straw man.
Okay, when it comes to the majority of the liberals that spoke out against Elon Musk and Trump, like Chuck Schumer, no. Nobody is listening to that guy. No one cares about Hakeem Jeffries and whatever overnight speech that he did. Okay, first off. Second off, like I said, and I can agree because I talked to some of these folks that voted for Trump. I work in construction where there's a lot of white folks, and they voted for Trump. And the conversations I have is, one, they don't like Elon Musk, and two, they do like their Social Security. They do like their social safety nets. They do like that. So when Elon was threatening to cut X, Y, and Z, they didn't like it. So it does happen like that. So I don't know why we're trying to pretend like it doesn't. Let's be honest.
No.
Hold on, can I just
let me just finish my thought here, okay? Rogan hosted Zuckerberg and Andreessen to attack the CFPB.
Of course he did.
To gut and attack the
CFPB. Bernie
CFPB.
Sanders progressive overnight?
No,
Are you insane? No, guys.
Are you insane? You were the one who apparently thought that. Cenk,
no, but
if anything is
Crystal,
going
do
to
you
be
really think
populist,
that I
hold
thought that
on, Cenk. Let me finish a thought. If anything, if the populist right stands for anything, you would think it would be an anti-scam bureau that is wildly effective. But no, and actually stood up against debanking conservatives. But no, what did Rogan do, and what did they cheer for with Elon with the chainsaw? Completely gutting not only the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Trump gutting the National Labor Relations Board, but them defenestrating the ability of this government to enforce white-collar crime at all. Did MAGA care? No. They didn't. The only people that held them to account were left and liberals who organized against that, and yes, successfully made Elon so toxic that he ultimately crashed down of the administration. That's what happened.
So let me try explaining it this way and see if I can get through to you guys. So you keep telling me all the things that Trump did wrong. Of course he did. So I'm saying that it's a given that he's always going to do, for example, 90% of things massively wrong. And in the other 10% that he plans to do wrong, I'm saying we have a fighter's chance if we ally and we show hypocrisy, or we get allies. It's a win-win either way, okay? So for example, in opposing the war, either they become our allies and somehow at some point we stop this war, or we show, oh, you guys never meant it. Now you're the pro-war party, which makes us much more likely to win over independents and win the next election. But as I say that, you keep framing it as if I agree with them 90%, and where I think that I'm going to flip them overnight on the 90% where we disagree. No, there's no chance of that. So you can stop asking that question. They're not going to move on cutting the budget, and they're not going to listen that, hey, you know what, you shouldn't cut the malaria treatment in Africa, you shouldn't cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because every dollar we spend there, we get back $20, etc. But if you go with your maximalist approach, guys, and you say, all right, I'm fighting you in a maximum way, so that means I'm never going to agree with you, I'm going to insult you at every turn, I'm not going to listen to you. So when you come in and you go, hey, guys, let's ally against the war, or maybe did you think that Elon's and I said this in every right-wing talk show that I did, and I said it at the Charlie Kirk event, I said, remember, beware of your own donors like Elon Musk. And then eventually they got aware of their own donors. Now, did they do it magically and overnight? No, it was mainly a fight between Elon and Trump, right?
And it was their egos. It had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk.
The reason they are unpopular is not because the left's maximalist approach of yelling fascist at every Trump voter is working. It's because their policies are deeply unpopular.
And who explains that their policies are deeply unpopular? The left and liberals are the ones that highlight how deeply unpopular those policies are. So that's where the credit belongs.
Like I do. So
right, but that's not like Joe Rogan does, right? Joe Rogan doesn't do that. Charlie Kirk doesn't do that. They don't do that.
I said how unpopular they are.
Yeah, but my point is, Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk don't do that, Cenk. They're not allies. Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk don't do that. Steve Bannon doesn't do that. Sloppy Steve goes and gives Trump a hand job every day. That's the point, is that they're not allies. And by the way, even on the Iran war thing, they're lying. They are lying. We literally have the quotes right here. Charlie Kirk is already backpedaling. Quote, we must trust Trump in this situation. Steve Bannon, if Trump ultimately decides to bomb Iran's nuclear sites, MAGA would come around. That's not me speaking, that's Steve Bannon. The vast majority of the MAGA movement will go, look, we trust your judgment. We don't like it. In fact, we may hate it, but we'll get on board. Tucker Carlson called Trump and apologized, and he also said on his podcast with Steve Bannon, quote, I like Israel. I don't talk about Gaza because my audience got mad at me. He said, quote, watching Donald Trump, who at his core is sincere about peace, I feel for President Trump, and he just has to roll with it. That is not true. What he's saying is not true. These are not allies. They will immediately start moving the goalposts as soon as Trump starts bombing Iran.
Here we go again.
You're going to get this. You're going to get, oh, he's getting bad advice from the neocons around him. It's not a big deal. It's a limited attack. It's defensive. It's not offensive. This isn't like Iraq. There are no boots on the ground. The only people who are sincere that I will grant you, Cenk, is libertarians, so Thomas Massey and Dave Smith, because libertarians have a track record, like Ron Paul did, of being very principled, but everybody in MAGA, or 99% of them, will bend the knee, just like 99% of the ones in Congress have already bent the knee. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's saying things that are against the war, she's ultimately not signing on to the bill to block the war.
All right. I think that's a good spot to stop right there. Once again, I'm pretty sure you guys know secular talk. Go ahead, watch the full thing. But they just keep going in circles. And like I said before, there is progressives or liberals or whatever the case is. There's individuals like let me see, a Bernie Sanders or even a Pete Buttigieg. They are well equipped to go on Fox News, to go on a platform like Charlie Kirk or Joe Rogan and debate them. They have the skills, they have the tools, they have the mindset to do that. So if they feel like they can go onto those platforms and speak to the listeners, because sometimes your job isn't to persuade a Joe Rogan. We get that his money is tying him down to his beliefs. We get that. Your mission is to talk to their listeners, the millions of people that listen to them. That's who you're really speaking to. So I understand what his strategy is to go onto these platforms like a Charlie Kirk Turning Point and speak to the crowd and say, hey, you guys say you're anti-war. Let's see if Trump gets us into any wars. You say that he's not going to cut X, Y, and Z, and he's going to make big radical changes to the spending. Let's see if he does that. And if they don't, or if they do anything that's hypocritical, then you can say, hey, you voted for Trump. You got played. Join our side. Is that a really winning strategy? I don't think so. Because once again, if you look at the data, you kind of understand where your energy should be placed. And that's Democratic voters who didn't vote. Now, to Crystal and Kyle's point, you are wasting a lot of time trying to convince a lot of Republican voters because they don't care. A lot of them just don't give a damn. And they voted for Trump for other reasons other than the economy, other than starting no wars or cutting things that need to be cut, and the whole waste, fraud, and abuse thing. They don't care about that. Some of them are racist. Some of them just want the tax cut. And some of them, a lot of them, are just idiots and not even paying attention to politics today. They just voted and just went on about their lives. Really, honest. Let's just be honest. That's majority of people out there. So this whole back and forth, is Cenk a real progressive? Is he really? Is he not? I don't care. As long as he's not saying, hell Hitler and death to all black folks and I hate all immigrants. Okay, let him do what he needs to do, I guess. I don't know. But, that's a conversation for you. But once again, guys, if you agree or disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below, or hit that blue sky link in the description down below so me and you can have that one-on-one talk. And like always, let's have that conversation.
I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy.